Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph, 49a of Maseches Kiddushin. Starting 2 lines from the bottom of the page, in the middle of the line, it says Al Menashani Shone. The Gemara was discussing various conditions that a man might make upon offering Kiddushin, betrothal, to a woman. We talked at the end of last week's Amud about if he says Al Manas on condition that I'm Karaina, that I can read, or if he says he's a reader. Now it says Al Manas Ani Shone. He says on condition that I learn. So accept this Kiddushin on condition that I learn. So meaning that I am someone who learns. So what does that mean? What is he making this dependent on? So Chizkiya Amar Halachos. Chizkiya says it means he learns Halachos. Rashi says Halacha LaMoshe Misinai. He learns Halacha transmitted to Moshe from Sinai. Some understanding means Mishnah. He learns Mishnayos, the Halachos. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Torah. Rabbi Yochanan says it means he learns Torah. Seemingly Torah Shebechsav, the written Torah. So he says, I learn. What does that include? Does that mean he learns oral Torah? He learns written Torah? What does it mean? So we have Machlokas. Chizkiya says it means halachos, the tradition of halachos, and Rabbi Yochanan says it means Torah, which seemingly means the written Torah, Torah Shebechsav. The Gemara asks a contradiction on Rabbi Yochanan from a Brisa. The Brisa says, we say Meisvei, let's ask a contradiction from a Brisa. The Brisa says, Ezo hi Mishnah. What do we mean when we refer to Mishnah? Rabbi Meir Omer halachos. Rabbi Meir says it means halachos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer medrash. Rabbi Yehuda says it means medrash. What kind of medrash? Rashi says medrash of halacha. So sifra and sifri. So there are some midrashim that are more interpretive of the verses in terms of giving explanations, giving background. And then there are some midrashim that are halachic. So Rashi understands Rabbi Yehuda when he says medrash, he means halachic medrash. So we have 2 opinions. What's Mishnah? And Rabbi Meir says it's halacha. So either halacha Moshe Misinai or the actual Mishnah, those halachos. And Rabbi Yehuda says it means midrashe halacha. But neither of them say it means Torah Shebechsav. So Mishnah and Shoneh are the same root. So when he says on condition that I'm Shoneh, that I learn, well, he means Mishnah, seemingly. So what's Mishnah? It's not Torah Shebechsav, it's either what we would call Mishnah, or Halacha LaMoshe Misinai, or maybe it's Midrashe Halacha. So that's a contradiction to Rabbi Yochanan, who said that it means Torah. Says the Gemara, top of the next page, my Torah, what did he mean when he said Torah? Midrash Torah. He meant the Midrashim. That's what he meant, the Midrashim of Torah. The Midrashim, the interpretations, the expansions of or elucidations of that which is in the written Torah, which is the Midrash, on that. Says the Gemara, V'hani mili da'amar la tanina. This is true if he said, I learn. Before we had in Hebrew, Menashani Shona, here's the Aramaic, Menashani tanina, that I learn. Aval amar la tanana. But if he says, I'm a tana, I'm a learner, so that's saying something more. So then, aditani hilchasa sifra v'sifri v'tosefta. Then there's a higher expectation that he's making this conditional on that he's a learner. What does that mean? The Gemara says it means he learns hilchasa, the halachos, so whatever that referred to, Mishnah or halacha Moshe Misinai, sifra and sifri, the halachic medrash, and tosefta as well. So much more would be required that he be involved in learning if he'd said that he was a Tana, he was someone he's a learner. Okay, Amenashani Talmud. On condition, if he gives her Kiddushin, it's on condition that I'm actually a Talmud, I'm a student. Some have a version here that says Talmud Chacham, I'm a scholar, a student scholar. So how much does he have to know to be considered a student? So, ain't Omrim Keshimon ben Azai Keshimon ben Zoma. We don't say that he has to be like these great Tanaim, Shimon ben Azai and Shimon ben Zoma, who they were students. They never earned smicha so they were students their whole lives, but they were tremendous students, tremendous Talmidei Chachamim. So that's not what we mean. Ella kol shesholin oso b'kol makom davar echad b'talmudo ve'omro. It's someone who you can ask him a question in that which he's learning, and he can answer it. So perhaps a high standard for us today even, but a Talmud or a Talmud Chacham, depending on your girsa, depending on your version here, is someone who, if you ask him something in what he's learning, he can answer. But it doesn't mean he has to know everything. He has to know what he has to know what he's learning. And if he gives Kiddushin on condition he's a Talmud, if that condition is met by this, so then the Kiddushin would be good. Va'afilu b'Masechta Dekala. The Gemara says it's true even if he only knows Masechta Dekala. Masechta Dekala is a small Masechta. Rashi says it's a small tractate that just has very simple things. It's not deep. You don't have to know a lot to understand it. And Rashi actually seems to imply there's just one thing that's taught in that brisa. Masechta Dekala is one brisa, and all it says is Kala b'lo bracha asur leba'ala kanida. That a Kala who didn't have the brachos at the chuppah, so she's forbidden to her husband like a nida. They need to have the brachos at the chuppah. Okay, that's all it says. So even if he could just say that, he's a Talmud. Okay, Almanasha ani chacham. If he says on condition that I'm chacham, I'm wise. So what does he have to know to fulfill that condition? In omrim kechachme Yavne. We don't say he has to be as wise as the chachamim, the wise men of Yavne, Rabbi Akiva v'chaveirav, like Rabbi Akiva and his peers. Ela kol sheshalim oso davar chachma b'chol makom. Anybody we can ask him just a logical matter in any place, the Omer, he can answer it. That's enough. And Rashi understands Chachma here, wisdom means milsa detalya b'svar, something that's logical, that's all. So it's not even clear that it has to be something in Torah. If you just ask him a logical question, he can answer it, he can be considered a Chacham. Menashani Gibor, if he says it's Kiddushin on condition that I'm mighty. We don't say he has to be as mighty as the generals of David HaMelech, of King David, Avner and Yoav. Anybody who's mighty enough, strong enough that his friends are afraid of him because he's so strong, that is enough for him to be considered strong for this, and it would be a good Kiddushin. If he says on condition that I'm rich, we don't say he has to be as rich as Rabbi Elazar ben Charsum or Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who were very, very rich. Rabbi Elazar ben Charsum, the Gemara says in Yuma that his father left him 1,000 ships and 1,000 towns. That may be an exaggeration, but he had a lot. And Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah had, it says, 12,000 wagons. Not wagons. He would tithe 12,000 calves from his flock, from his cattle, his herd, every year. So that's a lot. If that's 10%, he had a lot of cattle. So again, that could be an exaggeration, but he had a lot. So you don't have, if you say on condition that if a person says on condition that I'm rich, he doesn't have to be that rich. Anybody who's rich enough that people honor him because of his wealth, so that's enough. That's considered rich around here. So that's enough. The Kiddushin would be good. If he says on condition that I'm a tzaddik, I'm a righteous person, afilu rasha gamor mikudeshes. Even if he's a rasha, we know him to be wicked. Still, it's a Kiddushin. At least we have to be concerned. It's a Safek Kiddushin. It might be Kiddushin. Why? Because Shema here tshuva b'daito. Because maybe he had thoughts of tshuva in his mind and he did tshuva. So it could be that it's a good Kiddushin. So therefore, we have to at least be choshesh. We have to be concerned that it's a good Kiddushin. Amanashani Rasha. If he says unconditionally, I'm wicked, Afilu Tzadik Gamor Mikudeshes. Even if we know him to be the greatest tzaddik, it would still we would have to be concerned that the Kiddushin is good. Shemahir Davar Avodas Kochavim B'daito. Maybe in his mind he thought about idolatry, and therefore he's a Rasha. So even though we know him to be a tzaddik, but if he says, since it's possible that he's in fact, he had some wrong thoughts, wicked thoughts, therefore we have to be concerned that maybe the Kiddushin is good. It would be a Safek Kiddushin. Okay, so now that the Gemara has been discussing various traits of different people, it digresses to discuss the concepts related to character traits. A very interesting Gemara. The Gemara says, Asara kavim chachma yardu la'olam. 10 kavim. Kav is a measurement. So, there were 10 portions of wisdom that came to the world. Tisha natla Eretz Yisrael. 9 of them, Eretz Yisrael took or received. The wisdom that we're talking about here, Rashi says, is Torah and Derech Eretz. Torah and Midos, proper conduct. Eretz Yisrael took 9, 90%, ve'echad kol am kul, and the rest of the world got 1 portion, 10%. Asara kavim yofi yardu l'olam. 10 portions of beauty came down to the world. Tisha natla Yerushalayim. Jerusalem took 9 portions, ve'echad kol am kul, and the rest of the world took 1. Asara kavim ashirus yardu l'olam. 10 portions of wealth descended to the world. Tisha natla Romi. Rome took 9, ve'echad kol am kul, and the rest of the world got 1. Yud kavim aniyos yardu l'olam. 10 portions of poverty came down to the world. Tisha natla Babel. Babylonia took 9 portions of poverty, ve'echad kol am kulo, and the rest of the world took 1. Asara kavim gasos yardu l'olam. 10 portions of arrogance came down to the world. Tisha natla Elam. 9 were taken by Elam. Elam was a province in Persia. Actually, Shushan Habira was in Elam, was in this province. So, 9 portions of arrogance were taken by Elam. Ve'echad kol am kula, and the rest of the world got 1 portion. Ask the Gemara, V'gasos leBavel lo nachas? This arrogance didn't go to Babel, to Babylonia. Ve'aksiv. But the pasuk says, the verse says in Zechariah, it says, and I assume this is Zechariah talking, he saw a vision, and it says, Va'esa einai, and I raised my eyes, Va'era, and I saw, V'nei shtayim nashim yotzos. There were 2 women coming out, V'ruach b'kanfeim, and they had wind under their wings, so not regular women here, some kind of angelic women, I guess. They had wings, V'lahina kinafayim kikanfei achasida, and their wings were like the wings of a stork. Vatisa'ena esa'efa benga aretz benga shamayim, and they raised up this ephah between the land and the heavens. The ephah is like a portion, a measurement, but we don't know what it was that they raised up, but they raised something up between the earth and the heavens. Va'omer ala malach hadoverbi, and I said, I guess again this is Zechariah talking, I said to the malach, to the angel that was speaking to me, Ana hema malichos esaifa, where are they taking that portion to? Vayomer Eli, and he said to me, Livnos labayis b'eretz Shinar, they're taking it to build a house in the land of Shinar, which is another name for Bavel. So there's these women with wings, they raise up an ephah, and where are they bringing? They're bringing it to build a house in Eretz Yisrael. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Zu chanufa vegasos haruach. What was this load they were carrying? It was chanufa, flattery, and gasos haruach, and arrogance. Chanufa is like groveling flattery. It's like, overpraising. So that's what they were taking. Sheyardu leBavel, which came down to Bavel. So, and the Mefarshim explain, the commentaries explain, they're learning it from that they were raising up their wings. That has to do with raising up, like arrogance, and They have wings like the wings of a storch. A storch, in our tradition, always shares with its friend only. So that's kind of this idea of flattery. So only shares with its kind. So in any event, this Rabbi Yochanan is saying that this portion of flattery and of arrogance was being allotted to Babel. So we said that most of the arrogance went to Elam. Here it sounds like it went to Babel. So the Gemara says, it's true, it originally went to Babel. Lahacha nachis, it first came down to Babel. Ve'ishtarvuvi hu de'ishtarvuvi lahasam, and then it moved to Elam eventually. So it started in Babel, it went to Elam. Dekonami, and this could be inferred, diktani, because it's taught here, livnos, or the verse says, livnos labayis, to build a house, singular. They were taking it to Babel to build a house, shmamina, that in the end, Babel only ended up with one. Right? Because we said there were two things here. There was flattery and arrogance. How come they only built one house? That sounds like two things, two houses. So, because in the end, they only got the house of flattery, not the house of arrogance. That ended up going to Elam. So ask the Gemara, Eini, is that true? V'ha'amar mar. But we have a statement that was said, Simen legasos anios. That the sign that there's arrogance present is when you see poverty. That arrogance is, I guess, a punishment for poverty. So if you see poverty is a punishment for arrogance. So vanius bebavelhu, the poverty is in Bavel. So we said that already, that Bavel got the poverty. So if Bavel got the poverty, that must be that they got the arrogance. So the Gemara says, my anios de Torah. We don't mean poverty in this sense, poverty of lacking money. We mean poverty of Torah. Arrogance is found where there's no Torah, and that's in Elam. In Elam, there's no Torah. The Chsiv, as the verse says, Achos lanu ketana v'shadayim ein la. The pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, it says we have a little sister and she has no breasts. And V'amar Rabbi Yochanan zu Elam. This refers to Elam. Shezachsa lilmod v'lo zachsa lilamed. Elam merited to learn Torah, but did not merit to teach Torah. So Elam was poor in Torah because there were those who learned Torah, like Daniel was there and Mordechai, but they did not have students. They did not merit to teach Torah. There was anios there. There was poverty of Torah there. And that's why there ended up arrogance there. That's the Gemara's telling us. Says the Gemara, Asar kavim gevura yardu l'olam. 10 portions of might descended to the world. Tisha natlu parsiim. 9 portions went to the Persians. The rest to everybody else. Asar kavim kinim yardu l'olam. 10 portions of lice entered the world. Tisha natla madai. The Medians took 9 portions of lice, everybody else got 1. Asar kavim kshafim yardu l'olam. 10 portions of magic, of black magic entered the world. Tisha natla mitzrayim. Egypt took 9 portions, and the rest of the world took 1. Asar kavim negayim yardu l'olam. 10 portions of plague entered the world. Tisha natlu chazirim. Chazirim, pigs, took 9, and the rest of the world took 1. Some understand that pigs here actually refers to Edom, who is compared to a pig. Others say no, it means pigs. Pigs carry disease. They got 90% of plague. Yud kavim znus yardu la'olam. 10 portions of znus, of sexual impropriety, or licentiousness, came to the world. Tisha natla Arabia. The Arabs took 9, chule, and everybody else took 1. Asar kavim azus yardu la'olam. 10 portions of brazenness entered the world. Tisha natla Mishon. Mishon, I don't know where that is, but that place took 9, everybody else took 1. Asar kavim sicha yardu la'olam. 10 portions of sicha, of conversation entered the world, tisha natu nashim. Women took 9, and men have the remaining 10%. Asar ka'im shichrus yardu l'olam. 10 portions of drunkenness entered the world. Tisha natu kushim. The Cushites took, those from the country of Cush, often called Ethiopia, took 9 portions, and 1 portion went to the rest. Asar ka'im shena yardu l'olam. 10 portions of sleep entered the world. Tisha natlu avadim. Slaves took 9 portions, ve'echa natlu ka'olam kula, and the rest took 1 portion of sleep. I'm certain there is much that can be said about this Gemara. Probably many important ideas found in all of these references, but we're going to leave that as homework. Okay, the Mishnah says, so a new topic. Sort of a new topic. We really reference this Mishnah, and it's actually getting back to conditions that a man might make. So, if the man says, Al menashe ani kohen v'nimtza Levi, he says, I betrothed you on condition that I'm a kohen, and he turns out to be a Levi. Or, u'levi v'nimtza kohen, he says he's a Levi, he turns out to be a kohen. Or, nasin v'nimtza mamzer, he says he's a nasin, he says he's a descendant of Givon, which are forbidden rabbinically to marry regular Jews of regular lineage. He turns out to be a mamzer. A mamzer is biblically prohibited from marrying a Jew of regular lineage. Or mamzer v'nimtza nasin. He says he's a mamzer. It turns out he's a nasin. He's a Givonite. He's a descendant of Givon. Ben Ir v'nimtza ben krach. He says he's from an Ir, and he turns out to be from a krach. A krach, I think, is a larger city where there are markets and everything. Or ben krach v'nimtza ben Ir. He says he's from a krach. He says he's from one of these larger cities, and he turns out to be from an Ir, from a smaller town. Or al menashe biti karav l'merchatz, shebesi karav l'merchatz. He says, on condition that my house is near the bathhouse. It's a good location. V'nimtza rachok. It turns out it's far away. Or rachok v'nimtza karav. Or he says it's far away, and it turns out it's close. Actually, I don't know if it's good to be near a bathhouse. You have to live near a bathhouse, I guess, to know. But one way or another, it's not true what he said. Or al menashe yeshul baso shivcha megudeles. He says on condition that I have a daughter or a shivcha, a maidservant. Simple reading is that she's grown up. We saw an earlier Gemara interpreted this to mean that she is chashav. She's respected. Ve'englo. It turns out he doesn't have one. Oh, al menashe englo, or he says he doesn't have one. He doesn't have a daughter or maidservant who's respected. V'yeshlo, and he really does. Or al menashe englo banim. He says on condition I don't have any children. V'yeshlo, and he does have. Or al menashe yeshlo ve'englo. He says on condition I don't have, and he does have. So, uvekulam, in all these cases, afal pisha amra, even if she would say, Belibi haya l'eskadishlo, in my heart I wanted to become mikudeshes to him, whether the condition was true or not, in all these cases, afal piking, eina mikudeshes. In all these cases, it's not a good Kiddushin if he stipulates one of these conditions, and it turns out it's not the case, even if she says, I was ready to accept it either way, it's still not a good Kiddushin. And the same would be true if she tricked him. If she said, I accept the Kiddushin on condition that any of these things would be the case, and it turns out it's not true, or similar types of things, it turns out they're not true, in all those scenarios, it would not be a good Kiddushin. And the Gemara will elaborate a little bit on this Mishnah. We'll do that Mirz Hashem next time.